Hi everyone. If you were tuning into Facebook Live and it got cut off, I do apologize. We were having some internet problems here. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue with the questions from last week, and Frank will answer those. And then next Friday, we'll go back on again live, and we'll try this over again. I do apologize if you guys were looking forward to this. I am sorry about that, but we are having some technical difficulties right now. So we'll finish up with the questions from last week, and then next Friday at 1 o'clock, we will try this again. I am sorry, and I'll turn it over to Frank, and he'll answer the rest of the questions that we have from last week. But please try us again next Friday, same time, 1 o'clock, and we'll do this over again. Once again, sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you. Okay, Frank. I bought a booster bracket, part number 15272. Can you tell me how to install the booster bracket and what is different about it?
I believe that part number is the offset booster bracket.
Correct.
It is to take the entire booster unit, put it over a couple inches, up a little higher, about 1 3/4 inches higher, to try to get some clearance between the generators that people might still have on their car, factory power steering that people still have on their cars, where the pump is on the back of the generator, or just you want more clearance because you got a big block and tall valve covers. The bracket is going to bolt onto the back of the booster with no problem, but you do have to shorten the rod coming out of the booster. You got to do some measuring, make sure that the bell crank inside of this conversion bracket is going to get a full throw before it's going to hit the firewall. So the rod is going to be awfully short, but it's all due to measuring correctly.
Great, thank you.
All right.
The other one is I bought some fur channel kits for my 55, and I'm noticing that they're not held in with staples anymore. Can you please tell me what these little screws do, and how do I fit those in, or how do I make a hole to fit those in?
So the instructions on those fur channel kits normally have instructions on using a 5/64 drill bit for the little self-tapping screw. Most of the time, you use the self-tapping screws for the duster strips that run horizontally on the top of each door. Mostly all your sedans and station wagons, both inside and out. And you're probably going to use about 5 or 6 of these screws to hold the duster strip on. Now, running the fur channels around the entire perimeter of the door, it's much easier actually to use weather strip adhesive from 3M. It'll have no problem holding those fur channels in. The screws, you can maybe use a couple screws, I've done it before, at the top of the door just to help retain it a little bit better.
Okay, thank you. Next question is how do I install the hood and fender anti-squeak gasket kit?
How to install it?
Yes.
Well, first of all, you're going to probably want a factory assembly manual to see where all these gaskets go.
Which you can get at Danchuk.
Yeah, and those gaskets, originally GM would actually, to make production faster, they would staple them to each of the body panels. Of course, nobody has a staple gun today that's going to go through sheet metal, so I've been using 3M adhesive to at least tack them in place in the meantime while assembling the body, just to make things go a little quicker.
This question's from Misty. What is the difference between a 55 through 56 V8 and 6-cylinder hood and trunk emblems?
So all of your 55s have a large crest emblem that Chevrolet called it, and they had a particular 5-bolt pattern. Now in 56, they took that large crest emblem and only used it on the trunk of a 6-cylinder and their hood as well. Of course, it fits a 56 hood only, it's not flat. And they got an idea of using a 3-bolt pattern, so if the car decided to be a V8 on the assembly line, then they can put a V in the place of the crest and just needed to drill a few small holes above that V for the small little crest emblem on the 56. And then a lot of your 57s, all your 57 six-cylinder cars had that large crest as well, same as the 56 on the rear deck lid.
Awesome. This one's from Jason. I just recently purchased a 56 and a 57. None of them which have emblems on it. I don't know what I have. I don't know if it's a Bel Air, 150, or 210. How can I tell the difference, and how can I break it down to know what these cars actually are?
So there's actually two ways of finding out at least what model it is and what assembly plant actually. So you've got your VIN plate. It's always on the driver's side. Depending on the sport model, if it's a sedan or a sport coupe, it's in a different place on the A-pillar, and that will tell you your year, your model, which engine was in it, 6-cylinder or V8, and it'll tell you the assembly plant and what number of car off the assembly line of that plant. But then you got your body tag up under the hood. Normally 55, 56s are going to be up on top of the cowling on the passenger side. 57s, it's usually on the firewall. You can look at those tags. It'll tell you what the body plant was, tell you also what the body was built as, if it was a 150, a 210, or a Bel Air. And it'll tell you what body it was off of that assembly line from Fisher. And you can go a little further and find out your paint and your interior that was original in that car.
Awesome. This one is from Jeremiah. What is the difference between a 1955 and 56 and the 57 ignition switch? I currently have a 56 and a 57, and I was told that they could be integrated with each other to work, but there is a difference.
Yeah, your 55 and 56 Chevys have two ignitions on them. They got an ignition 1 and ignition 2 that was made for the ballast resistor and points distributor. 57, that's when they went to the R terminal down on the starter, and they no longer needed two ignitions. It's only got one ignition. So that's just one, that's just starters. Second is the length of the switch is much longer on the 57 because they have a big chrome bezel that goes around the neck of the ignition switch. So they had to make the neck of the switch longer, more threads. So you're not going to be able to put it into a flat dash of a 55 or 6. But it's not hard to, on the 5 and 6s, to take that switch and even you can put the two ignition 1 and ignition 2 and you can jumper them together if you're going electronic ignition, and that'll bypass the ballast resistor.
Second part of the question, he also says, I also have a 56 pickup truck, which also states in your book you can use the switch with that. Are the bezels the same?
Actually, the pickup trucks actually used a different bezel nut, different looking one, and the face of their ignition tumbler is actually different looking too, if you want to keep your truck more original looking. And another thing I found out, that AC Delco made a different switch for the 6-cylinder pickups. So our switch is actually a replica of the V8 ignition switch for a pickup truck.
Awesome. Thank you. What is the backspacing on the wheels for disc brakes, Misty?
Custom wheels?
Custom wheels.
So if you're using custom wheels, it's the backspacing is based on the width of the wheel, not necessarily if it's disc brakes or not. If you're using a wider wheel, disc brakes or not, to keep the wheels tucked underneath the fenders, you need to have a 4-inch backspacing for the 7-inch wheels, and you're going to need a 4.5-inch backspacing if you go with an 8-inch wheel in the rear, which are the widest wheels you'd want to go with on a Trifive without modifications.
A question that we had last week, which the person is asking again this week, when you're installing factory tubs, that we sell, it says there's no modification. But I have a bigger wheel and I want to go with your other tubs. Will you lose the back seat, and how much cutting do I have to do?
Typically on mini tubs, there is just enough being added for a sedan. You will have to take about 1 or 2 rows of springs out of your seat to make them work. But if you have a sport coupe, you've got a armrest built into the side of the quarter panels that's that has already narrowed up the seat. So typically a hardtop seat, you don't have to modify them much, if at all. And these mini tubs are just allowing you to go from that 8-inch wheel that I said earlier would work in the car to something around a 10-inch wheel with the right backspacing.
Well, that's all the questions we have. I want to thank you to Frank for today. And once again, everybody, I'm sorry about the difficulties we had on Facebook Live. I also want to thank Misty, Jason, Jeremiah, Mark for their questions from last week. I hope we answered them for you. But do please come back to us again next Friday, 1 o'clock. We will try this again, and hopefully everything will work out. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.